Whenever I talk about batch filming, I'm usually hit with one of two different reactions. One is, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Where has it been all my life? And the other one is like, no, 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 no. I'm not that organized. There's no way I could do it. Well, my team and I recently had a batch filming day, and we did it somewhere totally different from where we normally film our videos. So I'm going to show you exactly how it all went down and see if it's something that you would be interested in recreating for yourself. If we haven't met yet, I'm Karin Carr. I am a realtor in Savannah, Georgia, and I am on a mission to show real estate agents that you don't have to cold call ever again. You can attract clients through video marketing because, frankly, cold calling sucks. My real estate team is up to 8 licensed agents now, and we are in various markets. So typically, we all record our own videos. I record in this room right here, the spare room above my garage. Altaviz records at home. Nicole records at home. Kimberly records at home. Nicole occasionally records in her car because let's face it, we got kids. We got to go where we get some peace and quiet every now and then. And because everybody films at home, we have a process where we record the video, we deliver it to our workflow manager, who then sends it off to the editor, gets it all done, uploads it to the channel. It's a beautiful thing. But there is no continuity between the videos because everyone is recording in their own space. So Dallas, our video workflow manager, came up with this idea to book a video production studio for the day. We tested it out with the Savannah crew first. So the 4 of us went to this location. We recorded a bunch of content in a single day, and it was really cool. But when I shared this in my Facebook group, I got a couple of comments where they said, whoa, this looks really intimidating. So I wanted to show you exactly what it was like because it was not intimidating. And maybe it's something that you could do too. This is an office space that has been converted into a filming studio. And they were kind enough to let us book it for the entire day. So from 10 a.m. until about 4:30 or 5 p.m., we were able to crank out a bunch of videos. Now, before you think that this is super fancy and impressive, let's zoom in on a couple of the details. They had blackout curtains over all of the windows, and then they were just duct taped down around the edges so that no light could creep through. This allows you to set up your lights and have the same lighting in every single shot, whether it's morning, afternoon, or night, or after dark. The backdrop is literally just suspended from the ceiling. So if you don't like this backdrop, you change it. If you want to do a green screen, you just change it. You can have a white backdrop, a black backdrop, a green one, a faux office space. It being outside in the woods, you can have whatever kind of backdrop you want. There are a couple of good backdrops that I have bought off of Amazon. I will link down below to the ones that I personally have purchased if you want to give those a shot. There was a camera on a tripod, and it had a shotgun mic attached to the camera. There were also additional microphones on the table. We had a couple of lavalier mics, which are the ones that clip onto your shirt. And by having multiple sources of audio, so one from the shotgun mic, one from the microphone that I'm wearing attached to my lapel, we get 2 different versions of the audio so that the video editors can do their magic and make sure that the audio always sounds fabulous. There were a couple of lights that were on a 45-degree angle pointing at us, the subject sitting at the table, and a couple of additional lights that were pointing at the backdrop to make sure that the backdrop was well lit as well. This is super important if you plan to use a green screen. You have all seen poorly done green screen videos where they have the green halo around them. It's because they don't have enough lighting. If you plan to use a green screen, make sure you're using ample lighting. Lights on you, lights on the backdrop. We added in a couple of props to make it look pretty. So the plant on the stand, the lamp on the other side. There was also a rotary phone on the desk, which I had great pleasure in teasing the millennials among us, saying, hey, why don't you call someone with that phone? And they just looked at it like, and finally was the teleprompter. There was a teleprompter that was behind the camera. Unfortunately, it was up a little bit too high, and because it was not my equipment, I didn't want to mess with it and change all of their settings, knowing that they would come back in the next day to use the studio, and I didn't want everything to be moved around and in a different place. So we did not use the teleprompter because otherwise it would have been like this. We would have been looking way too far away to read the teleprompter and not looking directly at the camera lens. You have to look at the camera lens. audience. When you are recording videos, you have to make eye contact with the viewer. If you are just kind of looking off to the side because you're reading, it's very awkward for the viewer. You have to look at the camera lens. When I use a teleprompter at home, my glass that has the words on it is directly in front of my camera lens. So I'm looking at the camera lens as I'm reading the text. Ideally, that's how the teleprompter works. But because we had a separate camera and a separate teleprompter, it didn't work out quite so well. So we went back to the good old fashioned method, which is this. Did you know that there are only 3 reasons why your house is not selling quickly? And it all comes down to the 4 Ps. I'm going to tell you exactly what those are. Yes, it is super old school. It is when you have your script written on a piece of paper, you look down, you memorize 1 or 2 sentences, then look back at the camera, say the line, pause when you're done. Look back at your piece of paper. It's old school, but you know what? It works like a charm. And this way, you know what you need to say and you don't forget anything. But because you're not reading it, it sounds very natural. It does not sound forced. It does not sound scripted. And you do not sound like, hello, I am the 10 o'clock newscaster, and I am now reading from a script so that I can make sure I say exactly what I wanted you to hear. It's not important. If you flub the line, it doesn't matter because nobody knows what the line is supposed to be. As long as you tell them the information, doesn't matter if the words were in a slightly different order. Here's what it looked like from the point of view of the camera. We get the lamp, we get the plant, Zanera is extremely well lit. There's adequate lighting. We get the awesome backdrop. I kind of liked that it's in black and white, so it doesn't really pull a lot of focus from the person speaking on camera, but it's interesting and it looks like something you would see in Charleston or Savannah or these areas that we service in the Low Country. I'm told this is actually somewhere in Boston, but that's okay. It looks good enough for our area. The camera was actually zoomed in a little bit more, so you could not see the laptop as it was sitting on the desk. You could not see the papers sitting on the desk, which was her outline, her script, so that she would be able to refer to it. And I just loved the way that it looked. The overall effect was really, really cool. Do you think that you could envision yourself booking a production studio and doing something like this? Comment down below. I want to hear if you think that this is feasible for you or whether it just freaks you out too much. Now, around the room in multiple places, they had some of the sound deadening foam. I did a video once before in my home office where I showed you how I put those acoustic tiles on the wall. I will link that above if you want to check out the tour of my own personal recording area. But I wanted to show you some of the places where they had these on the wall. Not a ton. Like in this picture right here, there's only 5. And on the back wall, there were more. In every flat surface where there was nothing on the wall, there were no windows, they had these acoustic tiles. They were to the side of the recording area, on both sides, as well as in the back. Here's a shot of what the camera looked like. It had the shotgun mic. It had a receiver for the lavalier mic, which Zanera had attached to her shirt at this point. And it also has an external monitor so that Dallas could sit to the side of the camera and still see what the camera sees without having to tweak that little flip out camera screen too much. You can see the LED lights. I have a couple of these myself at home. I love the little barn doors that open and close because you're able to kind of direct the light in the direction that you want it to go. It also has a temperature gauge. You can go warmer and cooler and brighter and darker. They have a lot of flexibility, which I really like. And they're skinny. They don't take up a lot of room. Bonus. There was a giant television behind the camera. I don't know exactly what that would be for. Maybe if you wanted to use that as your teleprompter, or if you're doing a live stream, you can see what the audience is seeing to make sure that you're in the frame. You can see the comments that would pop up on the screen. We were not live streaming, so we did not use that. And then behind the TV was the teleprompter. Again, we ended up not using it. It was just too high and too far away from the camera that when we were reading from the teleprompter, it didn't look natural. So we chose to skip it this time. Here's Katie sitting at the table, and I liked it because you can see that the backdrop is not that big. I would say it is probably 8 feet tall, maybe 10 feet tall, and probably 12 feet wide, if that. Hey, are you finding this content valuable? I hope you're liking it. And if so, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel because I put out new content like this every single week. So let's talk about the pros and cons of batch filming like this. Let's start with the pros. Pro number one, you're able to crank out a lot of content in a very condensed period of time. This was huge. By recording 12 videos in a 7-hour block of time, we were able to say, Nicole, you come from 10 to 12. Zanera, you come from 12 to 2. Katie, you come from 2 to 4. We were able to give everyone a time slot. They could put it on their calendar well in advance and just not schedule anything that day. Like, don't go to a closing that day. Arrange it for a different day if you possibly can. And know in advance what you're going to talk about. You have your 3 topics that you're going to film. You know what your outline or your script is. You know exactly what you're going to talk about. You're dressed, you're camera ready, hair's done, makeup done. Boom. Now we don't have to do it again for a long time. Pro number 2, somebody else is taking care of all of the lighting and all of the audio and all of the stuff. Now, if you're still doing your own editing, you can have someone do all of this and then just deliver to you the raw file. That would be perfectly fine. Or deliver to you the raw file and then send it to your video editor who can take it from there. But by somebody else being in control of the lighting and the audio and the backdrop and all of the things, it just makes your job so much easier. All I got to do is show up and film the video, and that's it. That's the end of my involvement. And pro number 3, by having other people in the studio at the same time, it was a lot of fun. You know, when you are watching a YouTube video and they'll kind of look off camera and they'll talk to somebody and you hear somebody in the background yell something or laugh. We did a lot of that. It made it more fun. We were laughing, more engaging, more camaraderie between the agents, which made it really fun. Sometimes when you're home alone recording all by yourself, it can get a little flat, a little stale, but if there are other people in the room with you, it was definitely fun. Now let's talk about the cons. Well, con number 1 is, where are you going to find a place like this and how much is it going to cost? Is it going to be cost prohibitive? You have to find the studio and see how much it's going to cost you and how long would you be able to get that studio for. I am a firm believer that if you could rent it for 4 hours, 6 hours, and knock out enough content for 2 to 3 months at a time, that it would be worth doing. Gone are the days when I used to record once a week, every single week, and only do one video at a time. To record multiple videos at once is far more efficient. And it takes less time overall because you're not having to get yourself all dolled up and camera ready and setting up the equipment. It definitely is easier. It's a time saver. Con number 2, you got to be organized. You have to know what you are going to be filming. You have done your research to see what is your audience interested in. You've decided what the topic will be. You've written out an outline or a script. You've even gone so far as to storyboard it out where you say, I'm going to do this, and then the camera will do this, and I will then talk about this. You're saying, I'm going to have different B-roll while I'm speaking. I'm going to have this kind of music in the background. You're able to really spell it all out so that you are in control of what the finished product will look like. However, that requires a little bit of advanced planning. Now, I, as a realtor, am not known for planning in advance extremely well. However, it's important, so I make time for it. In this video right here, I talked about how I make time for video recording as far as blocking it into my schedule. Watch that when we're done because it was really eye-opening for a lot of people. The only other con that we had to deal with was traffic noise. Because of where this studio is located, again, it's in an office building. It's just an office space. It's not in a recording studio that has sound deadening all around it. Every time 16 wheelers went by, we had to pause and wait for the truck to go past and then resume talking. But that's not going to be typical for everyone. However, just something to be aware of. You'd be in the middle of talking and you'd have to hold it for a minute, and then you could resume talking once the truck went past. So what do you think? Is this all just completely overwhelming and you would never do it if you're just starting out maybe? No worries. In this video, I did an entire tour of my home studio, how I set it up, the equipment that I use, how I picked the color schemes and all the things. So watch this one next if you're just getting started.